Welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Georgetown, Texas. We are an inclusive, green congregation that welcomes everyone. My name is Linda Mueller. I have been a member here for more than 5 years. A lifelong seeker, I finally found a spiritual home which reflects my understanding of some very old ideas. Do nothing to other people that you would not like done to you. Love your neighbor. Everyone is your neighbor. They sound so simple, but they're not easy, nor sadly are they encouraged in many faith communities. Equality, acceptance, love, compassion, tolerance, social justice. Because my focus is on these, I have become a Unitarian Universalist. Please listen now while I read the inviting words of UU Minister Maureen Killeron. Welcome. Welcome you who come in need of healing. You who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome too your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. We are a people with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of every day. Welcome. Together, we are a beloved community where all are welcome and heard.
Hi, my name is Marissa Palmer, and I was asked to speak a little bit today about why I joined the San Gabriel community. And that got me thinking, why did I join the San Gabriel community? I'd always shied away from what I perceived as organized religions or adhering to one church or one religion. Mine tends to be a patchwork of spirituality, having grown up with Judaism and Islam and Catholicism and Native American spirituality in honor of my ancestors. So, as I started to think about why I joined this community, I realized it had a lot to do with the fact that in 2016 I was a new resident of Georgetown, and so I was getting involved in the community, looking at non-for-profits, helping, volunteering, being involved in vigils and protests, and I kept seeing the same faces at these protests or at these vigils or at these non-for-profit groups and committees. And I realized that the reason I kept seeing a lot of the same faces is they were all folks who were members of San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. So I thought, well, maybe I have to go check this out. And so I did. And I was pleasantly surprised as I sat through a service and felt an overwhelming lack of judgment when it came to my own spirituality and discussing it with people. If anything, there was just curiosity and just an overwhelming sense of acceptance. And so as I sat through a service and I listened to the affirmation, when I heard the part of service as our prayer, I knew I had found a place I could call a spiritual home, because I understood that, and that was important to me, service and serving the community. And so I became a member, and I volunteer and I support the community financially and through volunteerism, because I think both are equally important. We can't do a lot of things without volunteers, and we can't do a lot of things without financial support. So I ask you to give if you can, and to explore San Gabriel through our website or through our virtual services at our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
With these words by Deborah Falk, we light our chalice. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that envisions a world flourishing with equality for all people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning, or afternoon, or evening. Whatever time of day you might be watching this video, welcome. I am Reverend Sandra Ingham, interim minister here at SGUUF. That would be San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Today, I am going to talk about money, but that's not all, so don't tune out quite yet. There will be a special joke section in this week's reflections, which I know you will not want to miss. Although I hadn't planned it this way, Money Matters is going to be a two-part reflection. This week, what being a Unitarian Universalist means personally. Next week, what being a Unitarian Universalist means or might mean in the larger picture of life beyond our individual selves. The opening words are by the Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Into this home, whether online or in person, into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, whether in person or online, we bless this gathering. In its shelter, we know ourselves blessed. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. That was purely spur of the moment, but that was also your opening hymn, as you know. I invite you now to join together with the Denton family in saying the words of this congregation's affirmation. It's covenant.
Hello. Hi. Please join as we read in unison. The doctrine of this church is love. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Good morning, Karina. I am wondering what you have put in that wonder box for this week's service. I do know what the story is about. I am so glad that you found that story from another land, I believe. The story about sharing and giving and what goes around comes around. Pay attention, you slightly older folks, to what happens to that turnip. The word karma might come to mind.
Good morning, everyone. I've got a special story for you today, and so I thought I would record from my backyard because it's inspired by the animals that I have in my backyard. So let's take a moment and use our wondering minds, which we know help us learn and grow, to think about what might be in this wonder box. You can take a guess. Kind of noisy, but not too much. Tell someone near you what you think might be in here, and let's open it up. And what have we got? These are a vegetable of some kind. They're actually called turnips. They have a pretty strong flavor. Have you ever had one before? The smaller ones like this can be fairly mild and good though, and they grow here in Texas in the wintertime. So the story I've got for you today features a turnip. It's called Rabbit's Gift. So, have you ever seen a rabbit hopping around in your yard? I have, and I've often wondered what they might be finding that's good to eat. And I know that my neighbor has this garden, and even though there's a fence around it, seems to me like a rabbit could maybe get in here. So let's pretend we have a sniffling, hungry rabbit who's running around looking for something good to eat and gets into the garden and finds some turnips growing there. Not just one, but two. And she's like, I'm so lucky I get to have these turnips and have a good winter. She comes back over to her burrow. She rolls them over to where she lives, under here, but then realizes, you know what? I don't need two turnips. I can have another one for someone else. Who do I know who might be hungry right now? I know. Squirrel is always around looking for food to eat. I'll leave this turnip for Squirrel. Let's go see if I can find him. But Rabbit looks all around and can't find Squirrel, so she decides to leave the extra turnip at the base of his favorite tree for later. So after a long day of chasing lots of other squirrels around in the backyard, because that happens a lot here, Squirrel comes home to his tree, and his strong nose helps him find that there's a turnip at the base of his tree, and he's like, wow, this is great. I love turnips, but you know what? My belly's full. I've just finished eating all the birdseed in Karina's bird feeder, so I don't really need a turnip right now. I wonder who else might be hungry. And he remembers about Deer. Squirrel remembers that Deer likes to come with her baby fawn and lay down in this nice flat area in Karina's yard. So he decides to roll the turnip very carefully all the way over here. She's not at home right now, but the squirrel leaves it for Deer to find later. Deer comes home after browsing the entire neighborhood for lots of yummy plants to eat, and comes to settle down and finds the turnip. But of course her belly is full with all the leaves from the yummy elm trees in Karina's backyard. So she's like, who else could I give this to? Let me think. I know. I see Armadillo in Karina's yard, often desperately searching for something in the ground. He seems really hungry. I'll bring it to him. So Deer tried to remember the last place that she had seen Armadillo digging around in Karina's yard, and she found a spot, a bare spot, and set her turnip right there. Armadillo came by later that night, and he too has a strong sense of smell. What a surprise to find this turnip. But fortunately for him, his belly was all full from the grubs that he'd been finding in Karina's grass, and was like, I'm not super hungry for turnip right now. I think I can share this with someone else. Who might be hungry? You know, I saw Rabbit digging in the neighbor's garden, and she must be pretty desperate looking for food right now, so I think I'll take the turnip to her. And he rolls the turnip all the way back to Rabbit's burrow. Rabbit was sleeping when Armadillo brought the turnip by, so she didn't hear him. She woke up the next morning and found the turnip. What a surprise! Who could have brought that to her? She didn't really even know who to thank, but she did know who to share it with. And that's when I woke up and saw a rabbit, a squirrel, a deer, and an armadillo sharing a lovely feast in my backyard. The end. So have you ever heard that expression, what goes around comes around? That when we give, we also receive? Rabbit shared her extra turnip, which wound up being passed on from one animal to another, only in the end to be enjoyed by them all. Reverend Sandy is preaching today about generosity and supporting the mission of our church. Giving feels good, and we are all rewarded by the community we support when we give. We'll talk more about giving and receiving in RE time today. I'll see you then. Bye.
Thank you, Karina, for that story. The Wonder Box and the Story for All Ages are meaningful pieces of our weekly service. They are important to me as I plan our programs. The story is as much for the slightly older folks in our congregation as it is for the younger ones. As you know, we have not been able to literally pass the offering plates for months now during this time of virtual services. Not having the plate offering has resulted in one significant drop in income for this organization. I will tell you about the other losses of income in a few minutes. Maybe you could use some creativity and imagination and pass the plate right now to anyone else in your household who is watching this, even the pets. Or just pass it to yourself if you're the only one at home. Just a crazy thought. At any rate, we have to start thinking way outside the box if we are going to make up for lost revenue. There will be information on your screens during this musical interlude about how to give to the fellowship, and this information will be repeated during the postlude. As always, I am grateful that we have such wonderful musical talent within our congregation. More importantly, I am thankful that these musicians are willing to share their talent with us by giving so much time and energy each week. Their music always gives me joy. Take time now to center yourselves as we enter into the reflective part of our weekly service. share a short reading with you right now, titled No Place Like Home, and written by Unitarian Universalist minister David Blanchard. He writes, "If a perfect church existed, and I have it on good authority that one has yet to develop, I think it would resemble something like the perfect home. Another institution that lives more in our imagination than in practice. There are obvious differences, of course. One usually joins a family by no choice of one's own. At home, members may receive an allowance. At church, it works the other way around. At home, unlike at church, the leaders actually have some power to enforce their authority, even if it's only because they are bigger or older. Yet we persist in speaking about being at home in church. This is what this ideal means to me. I hope this home will be a place of shelter, a refuge from the tumult of life's disappointments and defeats, a place of consolation and encouragement. I hope this home will be a place of challenge, not complacency, a space where we are helped to mature and take on a wider sense of responsibility for ourselves and others. I hope this home will be a place where we can be ourselves, unencumbered by judgments or ridicule, where we are accepted as we are and for whom we are. I hope this home will be a place where we might take some risks, knowing that there will be arms to catch us if we fail. I hope we will know this home as a place of love, where life is made whole, where we may become engaged at the deepest levels of being alive. If we give these hopes life among us in the community that is found at church, then there will be no place quite like it, and we will know that we are home," concludes Blanchard. I wrote the following words in this week's The Messenger, our congregation's newsletter. In this election season, both presidential candidates tell us that this is the most important election in American history. Well, I don't disagree with that sentiment, but here's another equally true statement. This is the most important pledge drive in the history of San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. The stakes are high. I believe that your very existence depends on how successful this pledge drive is. I want you to think long and hard about how money reflects your values. And then I want you to increase whatever you had planned to give for this fiscal year. So by now, you should have received information about this year's pledge drive, as well as a pledge card. And I will remind you of what period of time we are talking about: July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. As you can see, we are already well over 3 months into this fiscal year that we are trying to fund. Your pledge drive team has put a lot of time, effort, and thought into this fiscal year's pledge campaign. No one has experienced doing this during a pandemic. Up until now, this pledge drive has been low-key. Well, I hope to change that in the next few minutes. I hope to ratchet things up, make this a very high-key effort. High-key, is there such, what is the opposite of low-key? Anyway, I don't give a hoot or a flying fig about the so-called taboo that proclaims we should not talk about money. Unitarian Universalists have a terrible track record in this area. To be accurate, I should lay that at the feet of the Unitarians more than the Universalists. Well, that's crap, to put it mildly. That part about ignoring the subject of money, it's bull. How can an organization plan a budget if it doesn't know how much revenue is coming in? How can we as individuals feel confident that we are spending our money wisely when we give it to the fellowship? And how can we know when disaster is looming if we don't talk about it? I think disaster is looming. Let me be as honest and transparent as I possibly can be. SGUUF is going to go broke if we continue on this trajectory. Monthly income for the past 3.5 months has been considerably below what our expenditures are. You have no endowment. You have only a small savings account. Unless someone is hiding something, you are in a precarious moment in your very short history. At the beginning of this service, I mentioned how income from passing the plate on Sunday mornings is gone. For the foreseeable future, 3 other sources of income are also gone. 1, rental income. We can't let people in here until we know what's going to happen with the virus. 2, money from fundraisers such as the auction, although there are some things beginning to happen in the wider Unitarian Universalist world around how to do fundraising online successfully. But the third thing that we don't really think about is we are losing, well, we're not losing income, but we're not gaining income by taking in new members. Nobody's growing right now. That leaves only pledges as a source of income. Please refer to my column in the newsletter if you are worried about those among us who can only pledge a very small amount right now because of circumstances beyond their control. That is always going to be true in any fund drive, whether or not we are in the midst of a pandemic. The pandemic makes it worse and affects more people's giving than would happen in ordinary times. But the rest of us are supposed to carry those who need to be carried right now. And there is no shame in this on either side of that equation. We have lost all other sources of income except pledging. I don't like the fact, you probably don't either, that too often in this crazy world we live in, it all comes down to money, or it seems to be that way, because everything is up for grabs as far as monetizing every conceivable thing, idea, subject in the whole world. I remember how dismayed I was when baseball stadiums were renamed to reflect their corporate sponsors. I'm sorry, but you can't beat the names Forbes Field or Three Rivers Stadium. How did you get to Unitarian Universalism? How did you discover it? Why was that discovery meaningful to you? I remember the first time that I went to a Unitarian Universalist service. I remember that, and this has been 30 years ago. I remember that feeling that I had come home. Max Gabriel, the minister at that time at First Unitarian Society in Madison, did the service that day. I can't tell you what Max talked about, the content. All I know is that I realized that I was not alone in my beliefs about so many things, in my important beliefs, that we're all connected, that love is stronger than hate. Oh, sure, I had tried out some other churches, mainly because we wanted to find a place for our children to learn something about religion, but those other faiths did not resonate with me. Neither did a lot of what the culture was and is trying to tell me. Much of the wider world did not speak to that deep down part of my soul that I found impossible to ignore, though I tried. I knew that what I was experiencing in that first encounter with Unitarian Universalism had the potential to be life-changing, not just life-changing for me as an individual, but also for the world. I wasn't alone in the world. After all, there were all of these other people, and First Unitarian in Madison is a pretty big congregation. There were all these other people who believed in those 7 principles, although I didn't know during that first time in a UU congregation anything about 7 or 107 principles. I just knew that I was not alone. I knew that my strong intuitive beliefs about love and compassion, interdependence, and democracy did not mean that I was just weird, living in the wrong place at the wrong time. Although those things may be true, but in the overall picture, I felt that there was hope for the world. This was in the mid-1970s. I was not alone. Some of you know that I had a hospital adventure just 3 months after my arrival in Georgetown. I had a little heart problem that required a couple of stents and a kind of surreal experience in a hospital in Round Rock. Never been in the hospital except have my children. But the staff there, the staff was unbelievably kind. And I hate hospitals and I don't trust doctors, but I had good ones those 3 or 4 or 5 days at the beginning of January. 4 outstanding cardiologists among them and almost every nurse. I think I was only in the hospital for 4 nights, but at one point, one of the nurses asked me where I was from and what it was like doing in Texas, and it became clear that I had no family in the area. "Oh dear," she exclaimed, "you're all alone." "Well, no," I said, I'm not alone at all, and I certainly hadn't felt alone. I said to that nurse, "There are anywhere from 120 to 150 people in Georgetown who are with me." I wasn't sure of the membership count at SGUUF then, at the beginning of January. Well, the nurse looked puzzled. Finally, I told her what I did for a living. I said I'm a minister, a pastor in Texas speak, and I am sure that the entire congregation is surrounding me with love during this time. Not in person, because I had not asked for visitors, but in their thoughts and prayers. We are not alone. Okay, that was some of the serious part of these reflections. In the past, when serving other Unitarian Universalist congregations, I have always used humor as a way of getting people, hopefully, to give, then give more, then give even more. And I have done this because giving should be a joyful thing. Of course, I have never done the money sermon during a pandemic, but I think that the need for laughter is just as great, if not more so than ever. But first, a word about the word stewardship, and then some quotes to ponder, and then the jokes. Be patient. Relief from so much seriousness is coming. Unfortunately, calls to give money can too often be, if not painful, then less than joyful. But I want joy, delight, and laughter here at the same time that I'm encouraging you to generously give of your hard-earned money. I have been practicing my skills at raising money by listening to National Public Radio's classical music station's appeals to give to their Dear Music campaign, which just ended yesterday, I believe. I was somewhat irritated, just kidding, with them for not consulting with me about the timing of their fund drive, because I would like to have gone first. There's some money to be found here in Central Texas, even in these very dark economic times. I mean, come on, that Dear Music fundraiser has raised over $1.5 million in a week. That makes our over $200,000 goal look easy, right? Right. Hold that thought. Stewardship. The aspect of the religious life and the church administration dealing with the individual's responsibility for sharing systematically and proportionately his or her time, talent, and material possessions in the service of your word here, in the service of God, humanity, the wider world, nature. Sharing systematically and proportionately her or his time, talent, and material possessions in the service of something larger than ourselves and for the benefit of all persons, of not just all humankind even, but of the entire universe. We are stewards of San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are called to exercise responsible care over possessions entrusted to us. We are stewards, that is, caretakers of all the time, talent, and treasure that have gone into this organization through the years, making SGUUF the unique community that it is. Our stewardship of this special place should be a joyful undertaking, because this is a precious place, one where we acknowledge our heritage, which is a history of free thinkers. We have been given the incredible and valuable gift of free thinking. In return, we give our money, time, talents, energy to this place to keep that heritage alive, something that is especially important during dark times, times when the world seems to be going crazy, like right now. We give and keep on giving so that we have this base here from which to operate, this band of fellow free thinkers within which we figure out how we will live out our heritage. That is stewardship. What do you think of when you hear the word stewardship? Are you practicing stewardship as much as you possibly can? To be whole persons, we need laughter and lightness in our lives. So hence the upcoming joke section of these remarks, to help us be more joyful in the midst of the seriousness of raising money. But first the quotes, and this first quote is not about money directly, but about what is needed to pledge way more than you originally thought you would. And what is needed is courage. And the source of this quote is a mystery book set in World War I. I am deeply into World War I these days because I find that time period to be a good escape from the time period of the year 2020. What does that say about our world right now? If I'm finding World War I stories to be escapism. Here's the quote. Courage was the ability to face what had to be faced when it was impossible to run away. And this from Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. And from Paul Tillich, without the abundance of the heart, nothing great can happen. And perhaps the most important and best known of all the quotes about money is this one. Money is the root of all evil. But as some of you may know, that is not the original quote. The original says, love of money is the root of all evil. Love of money is the root of all evil. So you had best get rid of it, I think. Here is some Unitarian Universalist humor to balance things out today. How many UUs does it take to change a light bulb? None. They believe it must change by itself. Why did the UU cross the road? To get to the discussion group. The class at a Unitarian Universalist Sunday school was discussing God. He lives in the bathroom at my house, said one of the children. How do you know that? Because every morning my dad stands outside the bathroom door and shouts, "My God, are you still in there?" All religions have rituals. Christians cross themselves. Jews put a yarmulke on their heads. Unitarian Universalists scratch their heads. If you walk into a Unitarian Universalist church and see a woman kneeling with her head bowed, it means she is tying her shoelaces. Two Unitarians were having a theological discussion. One said, UUs are so badly educated when it comes to the Bible. We are not. Oh yeah? I'll bet you can't even recite the Lord's Prayer. Each one slammed down $5, and the second one said, "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." The first one said, "You win." A Sunday school teacher asked her class, "What was Jesus' mother's name?" One child answered, "Mary." The teacher then asked, "Who knows what Jesus' father's name was?" A little kid said, "Verge." Confused, the teacher asked, "Where did you get that?" The kid said, "Well, you know, they're always talking about Virgin Mary." I need a soundtrack. I need a laugh track. Okay, this is the last joke, and it's a true story. It's not exactly a UU joke, except that it happened to a UU, me. Picking my cat up from the vet's, the assistant said what a good boarder my cat, Gigi, had been, and how much she, the vet's assistant, enjoyed talking to Gigi, the cat. "You do know she's deaf, don't you?" I said. "Oh yes," said the woman, "but she has gotten really good at reading lips." Trying not to miss a beat, I replied, "She has started to learn how to sign, too." We are a strange group of people, and I don't mean cat owners. I mean we Unitarian Universalists in general, not just we here at the San Gabriel Fellowship. And that statement is not a criticism. It is meant to be an incentive for you to give more than you thought you would or could for this most important ever pledge drive. Does generosity cause happiness? Asks Unitarian Universalist minister Robert Walsh. He answers this way. A colleague told me that he had read an article saying that people who are generous with their money are happier, suffer fewer headaches, and have better sex lives. Here it is, I thought, the keys to the kingdom, or at least to the kingdom of successful fund drives. Tithe and be saved. Some of you might not know what tithing is. It's giving at least 10% of your gross income to the church. Tithe and be saved, writes Robert Walsh, on earth at least. So, Walsh continues, I did a little research and found the article which my colleague had referenced. Alas, the information was inaccurate. The article reports that people who enjoy spending money are happier, suffer fewer headaches, and have better sex lives. So, continues Walsh, we are back to the old arguments for giving to the church, keeping in mind that you ministers don't have the advantage of threatening eternal hellfire and damnation if you don't pledge, let alone tithe. So we're back to the old arguments for giving to the church. The rewards we get from giving may be less tangible than those we get from spending, but they are no less real. But then who knows, concludes Walsh. Maybe generosity has the same effect as extravagance. Maybe your generous pledge to the church will help you with those headaches. As I said in my column in this week's newsletter, about 13 years ago, a relatively small group of people started what would become San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. In a manner of speaking, these amazing people slew a dragon. The dragon being that there was no Unitarian Universalist congregation in Georgetown, Texas. Anyone can slay a dragon, wrote Brian Andreas, but try waking up in the morning and loving the world all over again. That takes a real hero. End of quote. That is exactly where you are now, waking up every day and trying to love the world all over again in the midst of chaos and uncertainty and the challenge of dismantling white supremacy. You are all heroes to me. I believe that you can conquer this next dragon in your path, that of financial peril. I believe that you can and will do this in spite of the obstacles that the human race is facing at this time in history. Dig deep, then dig deeper again, double or triple what you originally thought you would pledge. Be open to unimagined possibilities of what your pledges can accomplish. Let love guide you through the hard night. You can give from deep within you. Hope inside us will lead the way from greed to giving. You can sing those words now in our closing hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
As we extinguish this chalice, let us remember these words of Reverend David Bomball. We are here dedicated to the proposition that beneath all our differences, behind all our diversity, there is a unity that binds us forever together. In spite of time and death and the space between the stars, we pause in silent witness to that unity.
The closing words are by Unitarian Universalist minister Jill Ann Terwilliger. For the longing that told you it was time for a change, we give you our blessings. For the courage it took to answer the call, we give you our blessings. For the choices already made, and for the daily choices that will shape the life ahead of you, we give you our blessings. For the communities that have shown you who you are, and the new communities waiting to discover you in your new ventures, we give you our blessings. For the great mystery of what lies ahead, we give you our blessings and our love. May you see something of beauty along the way. Touch hands with those you love and give more than you get. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace. See you next week.